1. Ladies and gentlemen, in the real world, people will punish you. If you are an average citizen who gets a middle income job, the mean of people will experience going through a corporation, organization, and rarely be an independent contractor and be the next Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Because those people who want to be like that tend to be just homeless people who lack discipline, who lack understanding on how the real world works, and think that things just will go right in some capacity in their way. That is status quo, that we live in a capitalistic society that needs lots of people to be pressured and lots of people to understand and have perseverance in things that aren't easy. OO tells us that it does not make sense that we use arbitrary metrics, but that is just a reality that happens in the job market where we have a mix of objective and arbitrary metrics within corporations and organizations like an office worker and how to be an entrepreneur, or maybe even being a barista in Starbucks. There are metrics used and there are struggles that you will always have to face. Metrics like how well you do under pressure, metrics how many burgers you can flip per hour, metrics like how well you do when there is a bad customers and how you deal with them, or even individually having the discipline to do things like starting a business. These are things that you learn through struggle, and there are a mix of arbitrary and objective metrics of your efficiency as valued in a capitalistic society. Deadlines being short, being grouped with bad groupmates, advanced calculus, chemistry, and advanced politics are not easy tasks to understand and needs a level of struggle for us to actually advance and move forward to do this. And ladies and gentlemen, those things may not be useful right now in the present, but studying calculus and all that stuff is the equivalent of lifting your mental weights and trying to teach yourself and learn to be more persevering and more understanding on how the real world works. Yes, we don't practically use it in the real world if you're going to be in an average mean jobs. But in those practices, in those things that you learn, you will start being more mentally prepared and you're more mentally struggle as opposed to a person that doesn't do it. The problem with OG is they are a believer that struggle and stress is just a bad thing in general. However, we in opposition already tell you that educational institutions need to teach kids how to persevere, and a level of a decent amount of struggle and stress, and also a motivation to reach a goal is needed for people to actually maximize themselves. Education and institutions need to teach kids how to persevere, and there is a limitations on how things can be fun. There's a reality that work outside is hard, and we need to teach kids on how to understand this as early as they get. So you are not, and now their response for the opposition's response to this was telling us that it's not going to be enough, but because we're going to make a policy where people will still be able to have struggles, people will still able to have grades and all that stuff. But I think the policy is really skirting the burden. The burden is over extrinsic motivation, and they have to say why intrinsic motivation is more better more often than not. And I feel like they're kind of skirting the burden by saying that we can have both in we can have these things both in our side or something. But even if DPM's case is true, it's quite difficult to actually scale and execute it from the perspective of the academy. You do not anymore have standardized metrics or way to measure intelligence because you overly cater to everyone. The reason why schools have stringent curriculums and standards to have a healthy pressure is to be able to drive them to excel. The question we have to OG is what incentive do people have to learn, grow, and mature if there is no stress or pressure, or none to an extent that is replicating to the real world? Gang, people are likely not to try as hard, slack off, play video games, use anything they can as a boo shield, and dodge anything that will be difficult in a world where things are just being in the ramp for them, an easy ramp downwards. We recognize that burnout happens in both sides, but Seth gave you 5 ways we can deal with burnout and prevent people from having anxious and depressive episodes. You know what burnout is more likely to happen in a world where you actually don't know how to deal with this from a young age? Because people, when they go to the real world, will now start getting burnout at that point in time, and they did not learn how to treat it as a kid. And it makes it even worse later on in life, where you get frustrated because the world does not cater to you. DPM is correct that grades are not a pure measure of success, but the comparative of poor performance, as Joseph mentioned, to which her no response unlocks the harms we told you still stands. OG also has this off-tangent idea about skills and wanting to do other things. We think this can happen when you join a club or organizations like debate, guys. I mean, on both sides, you can do this, and on our side, at the worst, you might have less time for these. But let's get real here. Getting good grades to get a good job is more important than these passion projects. Let's be crystal clear with our motivation. Motivation 1.0 or what OG wants may be categorically newer, but new does not always mean better. What we rather have is motivation 2.0 or the classic way of doing things has stood the test of time. Heck, I have an intuition bomb. Why do we even score debate speeches? Why do we score judges? What is the point all of it is? It is the pursuit of our full potential, ladies and gentlemen, and using the things we do as a means to drive us to our full potential, as it is difficult, frustrating, and tiring. I'll take that VOI from opening government. Go. 3, 2, 1. Closing. 3.
Why do you assume that people are all joining jobs where they have to struggle with no enjoyment or passion?
We say that happens in the average mean of people, and there will not saying that there is always struggle and only struggle. No, there will be a lot of struggle still. Even if you have some level of passion, you have to admit that getting a business and maybe for like a cafe and you love being a barista will still need a level of struggle, and motivation alone is not enough. Discipline is what needed. So our extension was simple. Learning is a process that needs some level of struggle. In our real world, if you're not studying, not being pressured, then you probably won't be ready for the real capitalistic world out there where there are others that will be doing that. You're just less adaptable, and there are just things that don't work out or you don't want to do. Then if you don't have the motive and you don't have the discipline to keep doing that, then it is less likely for you to actually go there. Let's do a weighing metric. What is more likely to actually motivate you? Discipline of doing hard things even if it is hard, or motivation alone that is actually more subject to burnout, actually more subject to things that are subjective, and not everyone has full motivations in every job they are. We tell you that the metric of people being able to actually study more and being disciplined is more likely to be better for everyone in general, and those actually people affected by motivation alone is a small group of people that will work out, but for the majority of the population, they don't always get that opportunity. At the very least, in our side, we keep a lot of these major people to have their chances in even be able to actually take that struggle and be able to actually push things and persevere. So if you want people to be properly maximized, then side with government. Opposition, sorry, government. My bad, guys.